educational content is dangerous. There's a big problem with educational content. And I don't just mean Overwatch educational content. I mean lifestyle coaching, fitness, diet, everything. The grind set, there's something wrong with it. And here's why, okay? Let me give you a little bit of an analogy. Let's pretend that you're going camping, okay? And you're gonna go on a big camping trip and you wanna make sure that you're prepared. So you go to the camping trip, you go to the camping store and you get all these dried foods and this special tent and then the special hat and then bug spray and then a bear belt and then new boots and then protective webbing on like pants, like breathable pants, but that keep the bugs off of you. And then you've got a fire starter, expendable tinder, a hammock, several different blades, different knives, like a GPS tool, like everything, right? And what ends up happening is you get so much stuff that you actually start losing track of what you actually have. And then when you actually go camping, you're carrying this 95-pound bag on your back. You're like, oh, this sucks. And then you open the bag and you're like, I don't know what. It's overwhelming, it's heavy, it's too much. Now, if we transition that into like the educational content, the lifestyle coaching, the blessing and the curse right now is that on YouTube, you could figure out how to just learn anything, improve anything, improve your lifestyle, get up earlier, 12 things to do to make sure that your diet is better, the best workout tip that's they have all these things, and I'm guilty of this as well. This is good, and I'm not just saying all this is good, I'm saying good advice. It can be tough. And it becomes to where you have so much going on that you don't find any value out of it. How many times, I am usually really, really detailed, like careful with this. But if I go into my gym right now, there's a couple things in my gym that I bought and I used, and then I didn't use anymore. There are endless bookmarks of life coaching, cool tips, this and that. And right now, do you see this bookshelf? There is a shelf and a half, almost a shelf and a half, of almost entirely coaching and leadership books. And do you know how many of those tips and things that I've actually learned from and applied? A lot, but a lot of times it was kind of overwhelming. And the problem is then people come into my channel, good advice and IO Stux and Major Midget and Temporal and all these really, really good educational channels, and they learn so much, but it becomes a burden rather than a freedom because they've learned so much and then they don't know what to do with it. You go into a game and you're thinking about angles, you're thinking about timing, you're thinking about planning and the cool tip that I said here and then the communication and then target priority, and it becomes like that weight, right? Where there's too much information and not enough action. And it gets to be overwhelming and a little bit discouraging, to be honest with you. And that's the danger. And this applies to everything. So then the question is what do you do with it? The important thing that you have to do is as you're learning and as you're growing, and I'm not saying stop consuming educational content, otherwise I'd be out of a job. But what you have to do while you're doing that is you have to be able to do two things. Listen really carefully. You have to be able to prioritize and you have to be able to discard, okay? You have to be able to say, okay, I've watched a lot of stuff, I've read a lot of stuff, took a lot of notes, read a lot of books, I've tested a lot of things in my own life, and I realize that these things that I've learned are the most important things for me to improve at, or the things that are most impactful to me, and then you kind of have to discard the rest. I'm not saying throw it out and never look at it again, but for right now, this is what I'm focusing on. When you go on that camping trip, maybe the 3 different types of mosquito repellent isn't that important, right? Maybe 17 different 3-course meals isn't that important. Maybe you want to go camping in a hammock, but not in a tent, because you can't do both. And I think a lot of people miss that. They get too many things going on, it gets overwhelming, and then nothing actually actionable happens. How many of you guys have watched a sleeping improvement video, or a fitness series video, or a mindset video, or how to deal with depression, or how to deal with leadership, or right? And how many of you guys have watched educational Overwatch content? And then how many of you guys have actually applied? And that's the gap that you have to close, where you read too much, you learn too much, but you don't actually apply it. That's the problem. That's why I offer coaching, okay? Self-plug here, but that's why anybody's coaching matters, because I realized this the other day. I pulled my back doing something the other day, tweaked it. So I'm sitting here looking at all these back videos, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know whether I should be doing this or resting or stretching. But that's why there's physical therapists, because they know, they can diagnose. And that's why there's such a thing as coaching sessions, is because what I do is I take all of the knowledge and then I apply exactly as best as I can in a way that what you need, not what you viewer needs, not what you viewers, but what you specifically need. And your challenge, whether you get a coaching session with me or not, or whether you're talking about life coaching or fitness or health or sleep or work or grind set or whatever, is to stop consuming that content, but to be able to consume and discard, consume and prioritize. Oh, this really works for me. Okay, work on that, build that life skill. So it's not just one thing at a time. That's a good way of putting it, but it's also what's most important. And then being able to be totally fine with not following every tip. I remember one time I got like, you should be doing these 5 stretches every single day, otherwise you're an idiot, right? And I'm like, I don't do these 5 stretches every day. I feel okay. I'm not currently dying from not doing this advanced broomstick shoulder mobility stretch. So maybe it's not actually that important. There are plenty of people that have gotten to Overwatch League somehow without my coaching. How did they do it, chat? Right? So that's what I'm trying to say. You have to find out like what's most important to you. Even if the advice is good, it can be too much. You guys saw that with the Gold Mercy, right? Where they knew everything, but they sucked. In terms of like they missed the priority list, right? And that's the other thing too. When you start polluting your bag, right? When you start having 4 different types of dried lasagna, maybe you've lost your flashlight at the bottom of the bag, right? The actually really important stuff gets buried underneath all the details. I learned this with speed training. I was trying to figure out what the best split squat form was that had the most carryover to speed training, and I was overtraining. I wasn't getting enough sleep. I was missing the forest for the trees, guys. It happens to everybody.